accommodation. What is the topic's name? Tell me. Rent-free accommodation. Great. What does this mean? Here, is employer paying you money to pay the rent? The answer is no. Then what employer is doing? Employer is basically giving you the house to stay in. Right? He is giving you house to stay, flat to stay. This is rent-free accommodation. Now we'll discuss first unfurnished portion. Only the flat is given, nothing is there. No furniture, no sofa, nothing. So if rent-free unfurnished accommodation is there, what will you do? The answer is it actually a government employer? If employer is government, then whatever license fees fixed by government for the flat, that is taxable perquisite. Okay. If government gives you facility, that is the rent-free accommodation, whatever the value of perquisite which is fixed by government, that is license fees, that is taxable. If you are a non-government employee, then we have to see, are you owner of the property? Are you the owner of the property? Or are you the tenant? That means, is the employer owner? Is the question. If the employer is owner, then what to do? And if employer is not the owner, he is hiring the accommodation, then what to do? So if employer is the owner, the question, employer is the owner of the property, then we have to see the population. What we will see? Population. If population is up to 15 lakhs, what is the value of perquisite? If population is more than 15 lakhs but up to 40 lakhs, what is the value of the rent-free accommodation? If population is above 40 lakhs, what is the value of rent-free accommodation? We have to discuss. Dekho, if employer is government, license fee is fixed by government, that is the value of perquisite. So when you file income tax return, that value you should write in rent-free accommodation column, and it will be added to income and your tax will be computed. You have to pay tax. But if your employer is non-government and the property is owned by that employer, then we see the population. And based on population, a percentage is given. Let's see, population is up to 15 lakhs. Then 5% of salary is your rent-free accommodation. 5% of your salary. Because anyhow employee is not paying anything, correct? So 5% of salary is rent-free accommodation. But if population is between 15 lakhs to 40 lakhs, then what to do? Then 7.5% of salary. Then 7.5% of salary. But if population is above 40 lakhs, then what to do? Then 10% of salary. Let me repeat. Again, I am telling you, listen carefully. When property is owned by the employer and employer is not government. So for a non-government employer, property is owned. To decide what is the rent-free accommodation perquisite value, we see the population. And population may be up to 15 lakhs. Then take 5% of salary as the value of rent-free accommodation. If population is between 15 lakhs to 40 lakhs, then take 7.5% of salary as value of rent-free accommodation. But if population is above 40 lakhs, then take 10% per annum as the value of rent-free accommodation. Then, if suppose the accommodation is hired, then let's see if the accommodation is hired. Then the value of perquisite would be higher charges or 10% of salary. If it is higher, then what we should check? Higher charges or 10% of salary. Okay, higher charges or 10% of salary. Whichever is lower we should take. What we should take? Whichever is lower. Okay. Now, we valued the property according to this table. We got the value of rent-free accommodation. But let's assume employee paid something back to the employer. Like I said, na concessional second point. Remember? Yeah. So employee paid something back. So whatever value we got, the value of rent-free accommodation minus that amount recovered from employee. Deduct the amount recovered from employee to decide your taxable rent-free accommodation. What's wrong in it? Okay. But first we should know that we are telling 10% of salary, 5% of salary, 7.5% of salary. Everything is fine. But what is salary? The answer is salary is equal to basic pay. DA retirement, please remember, basic pay plus DA retirement plus commission on turnover. Basic pay plus DA retirement plus commission on turnover plus bonus plus fees. Okay, are you able to understand? Plus all taxable allowances. This way you should take. Any monetary benefits are given, that also you include. But don't include your retirement benefits. Not covered. Right? Arrears of salary, advance salary, perquisites, not included in the definition of salary. So salary, what is included? Come on. Salary for rent-free accommodation. Dekho, salary definition in the whole salary chapter is changing. For each item, the meaning of salary is different. Correct? So, salary for rent-free accommodation is equal to salary is equal to basic pay plus DA retirement plus commission on turnover plus bonus plus fees plus all taxable allowances plus all taxable monetary benefits. Correct? But when we say all these things, please remember that 4 things are not included. 4 things don't form part of salary. What are they? Tell me. Sir, salary don't include retirement benefits. Very good. Or, sir, can we say like this, advance salary, arrears of salary? Yes, this is not included. Come on, tell me one more. Only one left. Try. Absolutely right. What is that 4th one? I'm not able to hear you properly. Yeah. So basically, salary don't include retirement benefits, perquisites, arrears, and advance of salary. That's it. Okay, these 4 are not included. Okay. Now, if suppose when we compute the salary should be taken on cash basis or salary should be taken on due basis? Tell me. It should be taken on due basis for rent-free accommodation. Okay, salary should be taken here only on due basis. Okay, and suppose example, I am an employee working in 2 different institutions. 2 different employers are there and I am working in both the places, getting salary from both the places. Then what to do? So, salary of both the places should be aggregated, merged, totaled, and on that these percentages should be applied. What I said, if I am working in 2 different places, salary of both should be included to calculate the percentage which we discussed till now. Okay, this way you should understand rent-free accommodation. But wait, we only discussed unfurnished portion. Okay. But if suppose sometimes furniture may also be given. Unfurnished, now I go to some Nampalli market and purchase sofa, purchase TV, then purchase something called as dining table, then kitchen utensils, kitchen gas, all that. Headache, yaar. Let me take something which has furniture included in it. I'll pay extra rent. And there are places which provide furnished accommodation also. How to calculate? Dekho, without furniture, whatever is the value, we just got till now. But only value of furniture I'll discuss now. Okay? That plus this will serve the purpose. Okay? So what is the value of furniture? Let me understand. Dekho, furniture is owned by employer, hired by employer is the question. If suppose furniture is owned by employer, then 10% of the cost you take. If furniture is owned by employer, take 10% of the cost. If furniture is hired by employer, take higher charges. If furniture is owned by employer, take 10% of the cost. If furniture is hired, then take higher charges as the value of furniture. If furniture is hired by employer, take higher charges. If it is owned by employer, take 10% of the cost. Okay, that's it as the value. Now, sometimes what happens is employer may not give you the same place to stay, but he may give you hotel for some days. Then what should be the value? Tell me. First thing, if it is hotel, it would be more costly, correct? So that's why the value should be the higher charges paid to the hotel or 24% of salary. So higher charges paid to the hotel or 24% of salary, whichever is lower. Higher charges paid to the hotel or 24% of salary, whichever is lower. That should be the value of perquisite in a hotel. Now when I say 24%, it is per annum. Okay. And hotel stay may be for 1 month, 15 days, 45 days, 40 days, anything, correct? So when we calculate this, calculate based on the proportion. Suppose if it is 40 days, then whatever we get per annum into 40 by 365, like that we can do, correct? Okay, very good. Now, let me tell you, suppose sometimes you are shifting your job from one place to another. Your employer only said go to that office and work there. Now, a new area, new city, how can you stay? So employer said I'll book hotel for some days till you find a rented premises. You said okay. Now, if this type of situation arises, at least 15 days, right? So at least 15 days, the income tax department says will not treat it as taxable perquisite. So stay in a hotel by the employee up to 15 days. What I said, stay in a hotel by the employee up to 15 days. Paid by the employer, not taxable, not a perquisite. Okay, very good. Now, what is the definition of salary? Same as rent-free accommodation. Very good. So, hotel clear. Hotel simple. Up to 15 days stay in a hotel, not taxable. More than that, taxable. How it is taxable? Actual higher charges or 24% of salary per annum, whichever is lower. That's it. Sometimes what happens, middle of the year, the employee has to shift to some other office to work. So employee's job posting shifted from one office to another. or there is transfer posting in our proper language. Now employee suddenly shifted, but he cannot ask his children also, family also to shift at a time. 1 year of school education of the child should not be disturbed, correct? So for that purpose, sometimes the employee's family continue in the earlier accommodation, and employer, he joins new branch, new office, correct? There he takes another accommodation. So now tell me how many accommodations the employee is holding. 2 accommodations employee is holding. How many? 2 accommodations. So what the income tax department says, this is fair because children's education is there, some other commitments may be there. So if employee holds 2 accommodations, it's fair, but only for the first 90 days. So only for how many days? First 90 days. Income tax department said for the first 90 days, you calculate the value of perquisite of both the accommodations. So suppose accommodation 1, accommodation 2. Compute the perquisite value of accommodation 1, accommodation 2 for the first 90 days. Then tell me what is the lower value of perquisite. Whatever is lower value of perquisite, that you will call it as taxable income. Higher value perquisite, you enjoy exemption. This is how tax planning is done. And here you are using the facility given in income tax. So we use the word tax planning for this. Okay. So government said any of the 2 houses, you take exemption. Another house, you value the perquisite and pay the tax. What we do? We value both and see where the value comes to be lower. That we'll ask the department to include in the income, or when we file the return, we'll tell and pay the tax on it. Whatever is higher value, we took exemption. This is how it happens. But suppose the employee gets the accommodation in a mining site, in a dam site, in offshore oil establishments. So if it is a transfer posting in such areas, such tough areas, then in that case, the income tax department says that will not tax will not tax the premises. Will give exemption from taxability. Okay, very good. But there are conditions. What are they? Such on oil establishment should be at least 8 kilometers away from the municipality. How much? 8 kilometers away from municipality. Or at least it should be a rural area. Now you may tell, what is rural area? Rural area is an area which is at least 40 kilometers away from city. At least how many kilometers? 40 kilometers away from city. And has a population up to 20,000. Both conditions should be satisfied. Right? The population should be up to 20,000. And second one, population should be up to 20,000. And it should be at least 40 kilometers away from municipal limits. This is called as rural area. Either the rural area or any other area can be considered for exemption, but it should be at least 8 kilometers away from municipal limit. Okay. So what we discussed? We discussed that employee is shifted from one premises, one office to another city, another location. So he maintains both the premises which he stayed earlier and now which he is going to stay. So in both the premises, wherever the value of perquisite comes to be low, that will tax, and wherever the value comes to be higher, we will claim exemption. But this story will continue for how many days? Only 90 days. And what about after 90 days? After 90 days, both the accommodations are taxable. But if the employee gets accommodation in a dam site, offshore oil establishment, a mine, in that cases, employee will be given exemption, no need to pay the tax. No need to calculate the income, no need to calculate tax. But the problem is, it should be at least 8 kilometers away from municipality, or it should be a rural area. Rural area means at least 40 kilometers away